Any kind of relationship, as we all know, who've read the basics, even in popular literature, knows that supportive, responsive relationships are actually the most natural resource we have. And yet, it's underutilized. And I mean underutilized in a sense that I don't think mental health politicians and policymakers do enough to harness it in an effective way. When people talk about using relationships as a resource, they're mostly talking about children. And I think they neglect adults and what they need to function effectively. So one of the aspects that stood out for me about what we need to know more of in Uganda is it was clear in the externship that women had a deep distrust of men. And it's very likely because they've been exposed to harsh or authoritarian men, either fathers or abusive men in other capacities, and they found it very hard to relate to men's vulnerability. And having an understanding that men also don't choose their socialization, that they need some help, kindness, gentleness, to be able to access their vulnerability. So I think one of the research that I'm certainly thinking about and been talking to people about is how we could generate not only understanding of how better to help men in this context access their vulnerability, but also I think women perhaps as a group or in conversation with men. So again, setting that up as a more interactional activity, and then assess at the end of it if one has made any progress in helping people to translate each other and to see if one can address that distrust of men's vulnerability and their honest intentions, and also desire to have meaningful, close relationships. Related to that then is my understanding, again with conversations with participants, is very few participants have had the kind of intimate relationships that's often now recognized in the West, that men who are engaged, attuned, responsive to their children in an emotional way can add benefits that a single parent can't. And that is an aspect that people certainly here long for. In South Africa, where there's so many absent fathers or fathers who simply don't have the luxury, the privilege, many times not of their own choice, not to live with their children, be part of their children. Those children often have what we call as a father hunger for a man in their life that can hold them, take care of them. And again, in the Ugandan context, we need to do some basic exploration amongst men who are fathers and how they see themselves as fathers and what are the potential there to step into more responsive fatherhood roles rather than the authoritarian, I'm providing for you, I'm protecting you.